Good morning. Continuing reading Sand County Almanac, Aldo Leopold's classic. We're continuing on with the second essay, Good Oak. Now, our saw bites into the 1890s, called gay by those whose eyes turn cityward rather than landward. We cut 1899 when the last passenger pigeon collided with a charge of shot near Babcock, 2 counties to the north. We cut 1898 when a dry fall, followed by a snowless winter, froze the soil 7 feet deep and killed the apple trees. 1897, another drought year, when another forestry commission came into being. 1896, when 25,000 prairie chickens were shipped to market from the village of Spooner alone. 1895, another year of fires. 1894, fire, another drought year. 1893, the year of the bluebird storm, when a March blizzard reduced the migrating bluebirds to near zero. The first bluebirds always alighted in this oak, but in the middle of the 90s it must have gone without. We cut 1892, another year of fires. 1891, a low in the grouse cycle. 1890, the year of the Babcock mill tester, which enabled Governor Hale to boast, half a century later, that Wisconsin is America's dairyland. The motor licenses, which now parade that boast, were then not foreseen even by Professor Babcock. It was likewise in 1890 that the largest pine rafts in this history slipped down the Wisconsin River in full view of my oak, to build an empire of red barns for the cows of the prairie states. Thus, it is that good pine now stands between the cow and the blizzard, just as good oak stands between the blizzard and me. Rest, cries the chief sawyer, and we pause for a breath. Now our saw bites into the 1880s, into 1889, a drought year in which Arbor Day was first proclaimed. In 1887, when Wisconsin appointed its first game wardens. Into 1886, when the College of Agriculture held its first short course for farmers. Into 1885, preceded by a winter of unprecedented length and severity. Into 1883, when Dean W.H. Henry reported that the spring flowers at Madison bloomed 13 days later than average. Into 1882, the year Lake Mendota opened a month late, following the historic big snow and bitter cold of 1881 and 2. It was likewise in 1881 that the Wisconsin Agricultural Society debated the question, how do you account for the second growth of black oak timber that was sprung up all over the country in the last 30 years? My oak was one of these. One debater claimed spontaneous generation. Another claimed regurgitation of acorns by southbound pigeons. Rest, cries the chief sawyer. We pause for a breath. Now our saw bites into the 1870s, a decade of Wisconsin's carousal in wheat. Monday morning came in 1879 when chinch bugs, grubs, rust, and soil exhaustion finally convinced Wisconsin farmers that they could not compete with the virgin prairies further west in the game of weeding land to death. I suspect that this farm played its share in the game, and that the sand blow just north of my oak had its origin in overweeding. In the same year of 1879 saw the first planting of carp in Wisconsin, and also the first arrival of quackgrass as a stowaway from Europe. On 27th of October 1879, 6 migrating prairie chickens perched on the roof tree of the German Methodist Church in Madison and took a look at the growing city. On 8th of November, the markets in Madison were reported to be glutted with ducks at 10 cents each. 1878, a deer hunter from Sauk Rapids remarked prophetically, "The hunters promise to outnumber the deer." On 10th of September 1877, two brothers shooting Muskego Lake bagged 210 blue-winged teal in one day. In 1876 came the wettest year of record. The rainfall piled up 50 inches. Prairie chickens declined, perhaps owing to hard rains. In 1875, 4 hunters killed 153 prairie chickens at York Prairie, one county to the eastward. In the same year, the U.S. Fish Commission planted Atlantic salmon in Devil's Lake, 10 miles south of my oak. In 1874, the first factory-made barbed wire was stapled to oak trees. I hope no such artifacts are buried in the oak now under saw. In 1873, one Chicago firm received and marketed 25,000 prairie chickens. The Chicago trade collectively brought 600,000 at $3.25 per dozen. In 1872, the last wild Wisconsin turkey was killed, 2 counties to the southwest. It is appropriate that the decade ending the pioneer carousal in wheat should likewise have ended the pioneer carousal in pigeon blood. In 1871, within 50-mile triangle spreading northwestward from my oak, 136 million pigeons were estimated to have nested, and some may have nested in it, for it was then a thrifty sapling 20 feet tall. Pigeon hunters by scores piled their trade with net and gun, club and salt lick, and trainloads of prospective pigeon pie moved southward and eastward toward the cities. It was the last big nesting in Wisconsin and nearly the last in any state. This same year, in 1871, brought other evidence of the march of the empire. The Peshtigo Fire, which cleared a couple of counties of trees and soil, and the Chicago Fire, said to have started from a protesting kick of a cow. In 1870, the meadow mice had already staged their march of empire. They ate up the young orchards of the young state and then died. They did not eat my oak, whose bark was already too tough and thick for mice. It was likewise in 1870 that a market gunner boasted in the American Sportsman of killing 6,000 ducks in one season near Chicago. "Rest," cries the chief sawyer, and we pause for breath. Our saw now cuts the 1860s, when thousands died to settle the question, is the man-man community lightly to be dismembered? They settled it, but they did not see, nor do we yet see, that the same question applies to the man-land community. This decade was not without its gropings toward the larger issue. In 1867, Increase A. Lapham induced the State Horticultural Society to offer prizes for forest plantations. In 1866, the last native Wisconsin elk was killed. The saw now severs 1865, the pith year of our oak. In that year, John Muir offered to buy from his brother, who then owned the home farm 30 miles east of my oak, a sanctuary for the wildflowers that had gladdened his youth. His brother declined to part with the land, but he could not suppress the idea. In 1865 still stands in Wisconsin history as the birth year of the mercy for all things natural, wild, and free. We have cut to the core. Our saw now reverses its orientation in history. We cut backward across the years and outward toward the far side of the stump. At last there is a tremor in the great trunk. The saw curve suddenly widens. The saw is quickly pulled as its sawyers spring backward to safety. All hands cry timber. My oak leans, groans, crashes with earth-shaking thunder. to lie prostrate across the emigrant road that gave it birth. I'm just going to continue reading because this is fun. Now comes the job of making wood. The maul rings on steel wedges as the sections of trunk are upended, one by one, only to fall apart in fragrant slabs to be corded by the roadside. There is an allegory for historians in the diverse functions of saw, wedge, and axe. The saw works only across the years, which it must deal with, one by one in sequence. From each year the raker teeth pull little chips of fact, which accumulate in little piles, called sawdust by woodsmen, and archives by historians. Both judge the character of what lies within by the character of the samples, thus made visible without. It is not without the transect is completed that the tree falls. The stump yields a collective view of the century. By its fall, the tree attests the unity of the hodgepodge called history. The wedge, on the other hand, works only in radial splits. Such a split yields a collective view of all the years at once, or no view at all, depending on the skill with which the plane of the split is chosen. If in doubt, let the section season for a year until a crack develops. Many hastily driven wedge lies rusting in the woods, embedded in unsplittable cross grain. The axe functions only at an angle diagonal to the years, and this only for the peripheral rings of the recent past. Its special function is to lop limbs, for which both saw and wedge are useless. The three tools are requisite to good oak and to good history. These things I ponder as the kettle sings and the good oak burns to red coals of white ashes. Those ashes come spring, I will return to the orchard at the foot of the sandhill. They will come back to me again, perhaps as red apples, or perhaps as a spirit of the enterprise in some fat October squirrel who, for reasons unknown to himself, is bent on planting acorns.